Low notes. As you play low B flat, so you play the rest of the horn. How we approach the lowest notes on the instrument illuminates our strengths and weaknesses and our sound concept and mechanics of articulation. The better you can play low B flat, the better the rest of your horn will speak. So grab your horn right now and play a low B flat with a big, full, clear sound and a crisp, light articulation. Can you do it on the first try? Don't lie to Dr. Wally. Hi, and welcome to the Saxophone Academy. I'm Dr. Wally Wallace, and if you're interested in saxophone masterclasses and product reviews, please do subscribe. We have some very cool topics coming up, and a big announcement is on the way for this channel. Now today we're talking about low tones, and specifically how to start on low B flat the right way. And this is going to be really important. I'm nearly done with the Saxophone Academy workbook. It's going to be a big backbone of the year-long fundamentals course, which will be free for all subscribers. And on many of these exercises, we're going to be starting on low B flat or low B. So this is going to be important. And if you're about to zone out and think, oh, that's easy, Dr. Wally, I can start on low B flat, remember, being very particular with details and getting the best tone possible is critically important on low B flat. It carries to the entire range of the instrument, these concepts. Low B flat is the first note I make all my students play in every lesson, and it's the first thing I do each time I practice to help ensure I have a rich, creamy tone. Most days. Now think of low B flat as a microcosm of your fundamentals. It helps isolate and highlight any problems or inefficiencies you might have with your airstream, your embouchure, your articulation especially, and even your ergonomics and hand position. And as we improve the tone of low B flat, we improve the tone of the entire range of the instrument into the altissimo. No kidding. Now to help carry this transference and to work on starting on low B flat, I use exercise 0. It's an exercise I created to take that low B flat and carry it to the other ranges of the instrument. You can download that exercise for free. I'll put a link below. Download that. It'll be changing over the next couple months. The Saxophone Academy workbook, which is going to be free for everyone, is actually going to expand on these exercises greatly. But in the meantime, you can get started with a couple pages of exercises in the link below. Now in today's masterclass on low tones, we're going to cover 3 really key concepts. Number 1, removing variables. We're going to talk about ergonomics and body motion. Number 2, we're going to talk about embouchure, calibrating our oral cavity to the full tube of the instrument. And number 3, articulation. We're going to refine our tongue motion, and for some of you, rethink about what our tongue actually does on the reed. Step 1, removing variables and excess motion. Many moons ago, I was in the Army. Well, the Army band, but I did go through Army basic training where I learned some very valuable lessons like wool blankets are really scratchy and tear gas smells bad. But on the rifle range, I learned some very valuable lessons about efficiency of motion. And one of the other things I learned was it's very easy to hit a stationary target as opposed to a moving target, especially if you are completely stationary. Applying this to the low notes on the saxophone, it's a lot of fun to watch a beginning band student try to play low B flat. They're trying to set their embouchure, breathe, add their fingers, all while moving in their chair at the same time, and it's kind of disastrous. It's like trying to tumble down a flight of stairs while you're threading a needle. It's not going to happen, and you might just poke your eye out. So we're going to create a checklist, like an astronaut, to put things in the correct sequence and remove variables and excess motion. Step 1, we set our embouchure. We rest our teeth on top of the mouthpiece. We cushion the reed with our lower lip, as you do when you make an embouchure. And then we finger the desired note, which is step 2, which in this case is low B flat. Step 3, we breathe deeply through the corners of our mouth without moving our top teeth or lower lip. Then we rest our tongue on the reed. We'll talk more about this in a minute, but then we set our articulation. Step 4, we blow. We create a back pressure of air, and the final step is simply removing the tongue, opening the valve for all that air to go through, and voila, you get a beautiful low B flat. So when done correctly, the only motion we should see when you're playing the note is a slight opening in the corners of your mouth where you breathe. Your tummy may push out while you breathe because that's the way anatomy works. Other than that, everything else should be still and stationary. This is going to make the process much easier. We're no longer trying to shoot a moving target. Second, we need to address our embouchure. Now, how do you know if your embouchure is correct or a good embouchure? Well, the correct embouchure on the saxophone should be able to play low B flat all the way to the high range of the instrument without changing. And you'll find a lot of amateurs and beginning players are not doing this correctly. When they play low B flat, they loosen their embouchure or drop their jaw. That means their embouchure was not correct. Your embouchure is a one-size-fits-all with only tiny modifications to play all the ranges of the instrument. So what we want to do is calibrate our embouchure to low B flat. That becomes our default embouchure. My classical mentor, Michael Hester, would have students play low B flat all the way through high F in their very first lesson, their first time playing the saxophone with him. I asked him why so much in one lesson, and he said, well, we're covering the embouchure, and until they can play low B flat through high F, I don't know if their embouchure is correct or not. And that was a really good point. I really miss Michael. He's fine, I just keep forgetting to call him. So we want to keep our embouchure relaxed, our oral cavity open, and calibrate our embouchure to low B flat. Get a big, beautiful sound on low B flat. That embouchure will work for the rest of the range of the instrument. So we're going to use exercise 0 then to set our embouchure, get a big, beautiful tone on low B flat, and then start to climb through the ranges without changing our embouchure. The set embouchure should be the same for all registers, with only tiny variations when you go into the altissimo range. We're going to talk about embouchure much more in depth in a future episode where we actually talk about the differences between classical and jazz embouchure. There are some slight variations if we're honest. But in the meantime, start working on exercise 0, getting a beautiful sound of that low B flat, and start moving up the range with your new embouchure. We'll talk more about it in a future video, but for right now, think relaxed, open oral cavity. The third pillar we must master is articulation. Now remember, to articulate simply means to clarify. It doesn't mean assault a reed with your tongue. Now there's a lot of different ways to articulate, including breath articulation, which is a completely valid way to articulate a note. But what we're going to do is simply think of removing our tongue to create the clarity of the sound. And remember, the tongue does not start the sound, air does. Removing the tongue from the reed allows the air to let the reed vibrate. That's what creates the start of the sound. A lot of young players tend to have a confused idea of what articulating or tonguing is. They picture the reed like a bell and their tongue like a hammer smacking the bell. That's wrong. It's really wrong. That's not the way it works at all. We're simply stopping the airflow from vibrating the reed and removing the tongue. It takes very little motion. And here's another fun fact. When we have a harder articulation, meaning a bigger pop of sound like a good jazz accent, our tongue motion doesn't change. It's still a very slight moving away from the reed. What creates a big accent is not a big tongue motion smacking the reed. It's a big airstream and a rapid removal of the tongue. What we need to practice is touching just enough surface of the tongue on the reed to stop vibration. No more, no less. And you can practice this fairly easily. Play low B flat and then simply add your tongue as lightly as possible until the sound stops. Then remove it. Then add your tongue and remove it again, the whole time with a back pressure column of air behind your tongue. See how lightly you can touch the reed to get the sound to stop, pull your tongue away, then gently add it back again. Practice this over and over and over again. Start to refine and clarify that slight motion of removing your tongue from the reed. This will make a huge difference not only in low B flat, but how we approach articulation later on, making it faster and your attacks all that much cleaner. So keep me updated in the comments below. Let me know how you're doing, what challenges you have, and any questions you have. And stay tuned. I've been a little bit slow with content, but I've been working on something very cool behind the scenes that I'm ready to share with you, I think, next month. I'm very excited and I've been working very hard on this. I hope you're going to love it as well. It'll be an early Christmas gift, hopefully. So stay tuned. We'll see you hopefully next week. And in the meantime, go practice.